Welcome to Folate Feud! Woo! Today's debate will be comprised of 3 rounds and a bonus round where the teams will argue any additional points they have. Okay, so on my left I have Team Black. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Brianna. Hi, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Sam, and we'll be arguing against folate fortification.
And on my right I have Team White.
Hi, I'm Lisa.
I'm Alexa. And I'm Sydney, and we'll be arguing for folate fortification.
And I'm Kara, by the way. I'll be your host for today. Now, Team Black and Team White, you may take your seats. So, why are we here today, you may ask? Our debate today will discuss the pros and cons of folic acid supplements and whether or not the benefits of these supplements outweigh the risks involved with taking them. Folate and folic acid are forms of water-soluble vitamin B. Folate is the form that exists naturally in foods, and it can be found in foods such as leafy vegetables like spinach, broccoli, and lettuce, fruits, nuts, beans, peas, dairy products, and in organ meat like beef liver and kidney. Folic acid is the form that is found in fortified foods and supplements. Foods that are fortified include cereals, enriched pasta, and white flour primarily. In January 1998, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration began requiring foods to be fortified with folic acid. This has greatly reduced the risk for deficiency in the U.S. over time. Folic acid supplements, as we have learned, are highly recommended to women of childbearing age because folic acid supplement usage has been shown to significantly decrease the risk of neural tube defects in children. It is especially important for women to consume adequate amounts of folate and folic acid prior to becoming pregnant because the neural tube develops very early in the embryo during pregnancy. While folic acid and folate have primarily been of interest when it comes to preventing neural tube defects, they have also been of interest in the study of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and B12 deficiency related to cognitive decline, all of which we will touch on in today's debate. All right, people. It is time for round number 1. And we have Brianna and Luisana arguing for neural tube defects.
Okay, so neural tube defects occurs from the failure of the closure of the neural tube during early embryonic development. There are 2 major types of neural tube defect. One is anencephaly, which causes death in infants, and the other is spina bifida, which can cause a range of morbidities. Folate deficiency has been closely related to neural tube defects since 1965. Since then, many studies have been done to test this relationship. Many of the studies suggest that folic acid reduces the risk of neural tube defects. One of the first studies was a randomized research study by the British Medical Research Council. This study found that women with a previous history of pregnancy affected by neural tube defects reduced their recurrence risk by 70% by taking 4,000 micrograms of folic acid daily. The following year, in a Hungarian randomized study, 100% reduction in risk of a first occurrence of neural tube defect affected pregnancy was found among women who took a prenatal vitamin containing 800 micrograms of folic acid daily. Also, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommended that women with a history of prior neural tube defects affected pregnancy should consume 4,000 micrograms of folic acid daily, starting at the time they begin planning a pregnancy. In the U.S., Public Health Services recommended that all women of childbearing age consume 400 micrograms of folic acid daily through fortification, supplementation, and diet to prevent neural tube defects. It is important to encourage women to consume supplement containing 400 micrograms of folic acid daily. And however, this has limitations because not all women would consume the supplements, which is why fortification of foods has been implemented, as 50% of United States pregnancies are unplanned.
But there is also substantial evidence to support the fact that folate supplementation cannot prevent all neural tube defects.
and that there are other folate-independent factors that contribute to the specific birth defect, including the quality of the mother's diet, obesity, and genetics. For instance, a folate supplementation study of Indian women who had previously had a pregnancy affected by a neural tube defect showed that folate supplementation did not decrease recurrence as well as it did for women participating in the Medical Research Council study, a study conducted in 7 other countries, and using the same supplementation dosage as was given to the Indian women. The British Journal of Nutrition concludes that this particular result may be due to the Indian women's relatively low intake of vitamin B12, but could also be a genetic factor. Furthermore, according to the National Birth Defects Prevention Study, other factors such as obesity and overall diet quality can impact the risk of neural tube defects. This study, conducted by the CDC, found that obese mothers are twice as likely to have a pregnancy affected by spina bifida than healthy weight mothers. And finally, that women who had a healthy diet overall, for example, women who followed a balanced diet such as the Mediterranean diet, had decreased risk of having a baby affected by any neural tube defect or cleft lip. I would argue that folate fortification attempts to compensate for a problem that can potentially be corrected by decreasing obesity rates in women and increasing the quality of mothers' diets, solutions that will also function to prevent many other chronic and debilitating diseases in the mother and the baby.
All right, both arguments have been laid on the table, and I think the response is Team White wins! Woo! All right, what an exciting first round. Next up, we have Ashley and Alexa. Woo! Come on down! They will be arguing the health outcomes and diseases related to folate.
Well, according to the American Association of Clinical Chemistry, a population-based cohort study compared the decrease in stroke mortality in the United States and Canada, where folic acid fortification was fully implemented in 1998, to England and Wales, where folic acid fortification was not used. The study found that there was an accelerated decrease of stroke mortality in the fortified population, but not in the non-fortified population. Folate also plays a role in heart implications. Hyperhomocysteemia has been found to be associated with the higher risk of cardiovascular disease in epidemiological studies. Folate plays a role in converting homocysteine to methionine. Therefore, dietary folate fortification has shown to lower plasma homocysteine levels, which lowers the risk for cardiovascular disease. Another population-based study showed that fortification of grain products with folic acid in Canada was followed by a significant decrease in the birth prevalence of severe congenital heart defects with intake around conception. After 7 years of implementing folic acid fortification, there was a 6% decrease per year of congenital heart defects. This reduction in the overall risk of CHD reduced the costs associated with the medical care of these patients and the psychological burden on patients and families.
Thanks, Alexa. Did you ever think about the implications that folic acid fortification might have for the elderly population, though?
I did not. Tell me more.
Okay, so you might know it's been suggested that high folate intake can mask vitamin B12 deficiency. According to a journal article from the Symposium on Micronutrients Throughout the Life Cycle, high intakes of folic acid alter the metabolic handling of polyglutamic acid and allow it to be absorbed passively without being hydrolyzed to monoglutamate. We know that both 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, the predominant circulating form of folate, and vitamin B12 are required to regenerate THF, which is the substrate for the formation of 5-methylene THF. The precession of this pathway results in DNA pyrimidine synthesis. During vitamin B12 deficiency, this pathway is inhibited, and a megaloblastic anemia may develop as a result of inadequate DNA synthesis for erythrocyte cell division. It is important to understand that this type of anemia is also associated with folate deficiency. However, with high intakes of folic acid, the absorbed polyglutamic acid can bypass the vitamin B12 dependent pathway and be converted to THF by another route. This means that, even during vitamin B12 deficiency, substrates are still available for DNA pyrimidine synthesis, and thus, red blood cells are formed despite vitamin B12 deficiency. Because of the continued production of red blood cells, megaloblastic anemia is masked and vitamin B12 deficiency is disguised. The article points out that this can be very detrimental when the diagnosis of vitamin B12 deficiency is dependent on the observation of clinical symptoms of anemia or morphological changes in erythrocyte cells. If diagnosis and treatment of B12 deficiency are delayed for too long, neurological symptoms will also progress untreated.
Wow, such interesting arguments on both sides. I think we might just have a tie here. Oh, good job, ladies. Now, moving on to round 3, our final official round. We have Sam and Sydney arguing about cancer formation. Ladies, come on down! Going down. All right. We will be talking about folic acid supplements in regards to cancer formation.
That'll be my quick next time, Papa. Okay. Well, according to the American Society for Clinical Nutrition, there are observational studies that suggest that folate intakes reduce cancer risks, particularly malignancies of the colon, pancreas, esophagus, stomach, and even possibly the cervix and the breast.
Actually, I have a study that kind of disproves your point. In a recent study entitled Folate, Colorectal Carcinogenesis, and DNA Methylation, Lessons from Animal Studies, it states that animal studies were done and shown that dose and timing of folate intervention are critical to providing safe and effective chemoprevention, especially high supplemental folate levels and folate intervention after microscopic neuroplastic foci are established in the colorectal mucosa promote rather than suppress colorectal carcinogenesis.
Well, did your sources also tell you that folate has cancer preventative properties and it's important for the de novo synthesis of thymidylate and purines, which are nucleotides needed for the DNA replication and repair? And proper folate status is important in producing the intermediate SAM or SAM, which is needed for a number of other methylation reactions, including DNA methylation. And also, DNA methylation is central to gene silencing and suppression of repetitive DNA of viral origin. And there are also animal studies with folate that modest supplementation can reduce carcinogenesis.
Oh, snap.
I agree with your points. However, my same study I referred to earlier shows that although folate can be used to help suppress cancer and growth of cancer cells, it actually has a dual effect on carcinogenesis, depending on timing and dose of folate. It's almost impossible to regulate time and dose folate is given to patients with fortification in our country. Oftentimes, a person may not even know that the foci have been established and they'll ingest folate-fortified foods, which in the long run could actually promote their cancer development. Because this was an animal trial study, it did provide evidence on a safe and effective dose and optimal timing to reduce cancer formation and growth in animals. However, a proper timing to reduce cancer formation and growth in humans has not been established. It appears that modest levels of folate supplementation should be implemented before the development of lesions in the target organ of an individual free of any lesions. It is obvious, however, that determining the presence of these lesions is impossible to do in the general public. Also, it is suggested that existence of these lesions in respect to colorectal cancer is found in about 25% of people over the age of 50, and the prevalence only increases with age. Therefore, that's a lot of people in America that could be getting folate at the improper time, since we don't know what that proper time is, and thus increasing their tumor progression.
Oh boy. Looks like Team White doesn't have anything left to say, so you know what that means. Team Black! Guys. I can't even handle this right now, but for the first time in Folate Feud history, we have a tie. So, we're just gonna have to have a bonus round. So, will any members from Team Black or Team White that wish to further argue their points, please come forward. What do you have to say, ladies? Let's start with Team Black.
Well, for my argument, I would like to say that many people today are choosing to not eat a lot of the grains that are fortified with folic acid in today's country. For example, diet fads are tending to shy away from carbohydrates for weight loss reasons, and many Americans are either choosing to be or have to be for medical reasons gluten-free. Therefore, are they even getting the folic acid that we're trying to provide for them?
Well, the daily requirements for adults over the age of 19 for folate and folic acid is 400 micrograms. Many ready-to-eat breakfast cereals have 100 to 400 micrograms of folic acid per serving. And their noodles and rice also has 90 micrograms. So as you can see, there's many opportunities to get your folate.
Good points. It's finally time to end this game show. And you know what? There have just been so many great arguments today that I think we might just have a tie. Woo! Each side of this debate has a lot to offer. The jury is really out on this one. It appears that more research needs to be conducted in order to fully determine whether or not folic acid supplements provide more benefits or more risks. As there are not a lot of studies conducted on humans at this point, because most are conducted on animals, it's hard to draw an adequate conclusion. This has also been shown to have been a controversial topic for many years. In 1991, when foods were first being required to be fortified, many agencies did not agree with required fortification, including the FDA. The FDA did not believe that there was significant evidence to conclude that adequate levels of folic acid could reduce the risk for neural tube defects, and the risk of consuming too much folate were unknown at this time. This still apparently remains a controversial issue to this day. It has been demonstrated that there may not be any real benefit for men to take folic acid supplements. What can we do about this problem at this point? Perhaps we can give the option of either fortified or unfortified grains, similar to what we do with calcium in milk. Will this solve this problem? The world may never know. Thank you for watching Folate Feud. I'm Steve O. Kara Drap Show. Good night.